You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I'm still working on that story. Did you happen to hear that story? The woman finding a finger in her salad at the restaurant?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that they find the rest.
Was there tomato in the salad, though?
So what?
Was there any tomato in the salad? Because I understand it's very good for you.
I'm kind of interested in the fact that the restaurant was fined $900, as if that's the amount they set aside for fingers being found in food. That's the actual amount, $900.
I'd like to see the list for the other body parts.
Ew.
You know?
Yeah. I don't need to know. But I'm just like the poor girl who lost her fingertip, and then this turns into a fine. Like,
yeah. Well, you're not supposed to
not
find
like,
a finger.
it's not like she did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, I guess she should have had the presence of mind to retrieve her fingertip from the salad.
Always a good idea. It's not as if you. It's not as if you wouldn't know you did that, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, Jim. What were we going to say?
Ew.
I said, are you still married?
Yes. 2 days later, we are still married.
They say the first 73 hours are the toughest. So,
thank you, Jim, for your concern. Yes, 3
Well,
days later, we're still married. All right, let's talk about a couple of stories here. Starting, I guess, depending on how you want to play this is the story I didn't necessarily see coming or hear a whole lot about today. What is this idea about putting all our eggs in one battery-powered basket?
Listen, I got to tell you, you're right. We haven't been hearing about this story very much, and quite frankly, we should be hearing about this story. We've been hearing about it in dribs and drabs, and that's one of the reasons I think it keeps sliding under the radar. But what's interesting is that the head of Investment Quebec, a gentleman by the name of Guy Leblanc, was interviewed by the Canadian press this week, and he sort of nonchalantly said, "Well, we're already $15 billion into the battery business. In the next couple of years, though, that could go up to $30 billion because we have other things that we want to do and so on and so forth. And, it's really great. And every indicator says that this is going to be the way to go, that electrical car use is going to increase tenfold over the next decade. And I know every time that this topic comes up on the show, you are always asking the question, are we sure about this? How do we know that this is going to happen? Yeah. And it's kind of funny because the Journal de Québec, and this is a story that's a couple of weeks old, but it merits mention, the Journal de Québec kept trying to find out how many risk assessments has the Legault government conducted on its thus far $15 billion or multi-billion-dollar investment in the battery industry. And they got batted between Investment Quebec and Fitzgibbon's office, Ministry of the Economy. Finally, they did an access request, and they discovered that there was all of one risk assessment report done, which examined nickel-cadmium batteries. I can't tell you more about it, though, because most of it's redacted. So that is the extent of the research that this government has done in terms of whether or not this $15 billion is a lead pipe cinch or a long shot. Meanwhile, we have people like Benoit Charest, the environment minister, essentially repeating his award-winning performance with the third link. Remember when he said the third link? This is a great project's going to go through, come hell or high water, it doesn't matter what the report's saying. And now he's saying that Northvolt is this marvelous investment for the Quebec government. And a lot of eyebrows are raised because he's supposed to keep his mouth shut because his department's supposed to investigate the environmental impact of this. And now there's a concern that when the boss is saying, yeah, this is a great project, how diligent are you going to be to dig around and see whether or not this is a good idea for the environment out there in McMasterville? Yeah, all that said, it's like we are on a runaway train here, which is kind of scary because we're talking about a window of the next decade, which means that it's entirely possible if the Legault government continues to dwindle in the polls, the next government will be stuck with this potentially $30 billion white elephant because we didn't do our basic homework on this. And this, quite frankly, scares me more than anything else that's going on with the provincial government right now.
Yeah, I think it's also worth pointing out, maybe it's not as big a deal. I just keep this in mind. We are not the only ones doing this, by the way. These things are opening up, these battery plants, around the rest of the world. It's not unique to Quebec. I mean, it's wonderful to say we're investing in the electric, battery and the future of these cars, et cetera. We're just one of many players here.
And the thing is, if we want to use one of our favorite metaphors that we use on the show, it seems they're building monorails everywhere. You know what I mean? Everybody is just hopping up and down and singing and dancing and doing a chorus line because that's the way to go. And yet, we have to remember there was supposed to be a big project, and I guess it still exists, but it's in limbo. BASF, the German-based firm, was supposed to have a huge plant in Bécancour, and that plan is on hold because why? Because they can't find any investors interested from the electric vehicle sector to go in with them. Yeah. So this, I think, if nothing else, should be a red light saying, why don't we take a deep breath here and see what exactly it is that we're getting into? Because frankly, I think these are turning into very, very expensive photo ops and nothing else. And photo ops we may end up paying for a very, very long time with nothing to show for it.
I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right.
Yeah, this government, their priorities are completely out of whack, and I feel like they're just doing what they're like. Oh, let's do this, let's do that, and then the stuff that they say is top priority, they don't actually prioritize. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the strike days that have been announced. We now know as of December 8th to the 14th, the English sector Common Front 2 going back on strike. Are you saying Quebec Liberals? So they've been getting a little more feisty here. They're calling for Sonia LeBel's head.
Well, they're looking at her record. She's dealing with a total of 10 public sector unions, and she's 0 for 10 when it comes to anything resembling a settlement. Yeah. And by the way, just speaking of priorities, and it wasn't on my list, but I just found out about this like half an hour ago. Quebec's finance minister and minister responsible for hockey, Eric Girard, was supposed to meet this week with Gary Bettman. And he has decided to cancel that meeting, and his office says it's because he needs to concentrate on the province's finances in the context of these ongoing negotiations.
Oh, that's a nice.
So I don't know about you guys, but I think there might be an aroma of change in the air coming down the pike. It looks to me that perhaps now that anything that goes wrong with this government, everyone remembers the PS on every complaint with the government is, oh, yes, but they have $7 million to spend on the LA Kings. I think they may try and disentangle themselves for that. But in the meantime, the Liberals are having fun. Sonia LeBel, very, very competent lawyer. Many of our listeners will remember her from the Charbonneau inquiry. Yeah. But all that said, they are challenging Legault to fire her because of the lack of progress and take over the negotiations himself. And this is more mischievous than one might think, because remember, as we pointed out on the show repeatedly, mon oncle Francois has discovered, we've discovered he has far shorter shrift with female cabinet ministers who don't produce than perhaps their male counterparts. Yep. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what, if anything, Legault says about this. And indeed, when the second week of October, we're going to see another, more strikes with 500,000 public sector workers, nurses, social services, education. It'll be interesting to see how long it's going to take until his head explodes. I know I had said he would legislate them back by now. Maybe he's duct taped into his chair somewhere because people want to, make me wrong. But I really think something's going to give this week, because the unions are having way too much fun. And once again, poll after poll after poll is showing us they have the support of the public.
Jim, we're out of time, but I want you to just weigh in. This is going to be my question of the day coming up in a sec here on the whole Jagmeet Singh story. This whole carrying a Versace bag, Rolexes, whatever. Yeah. What did you think of all that?
Did he pay for it himself?
We don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure that he did. I know people say, "Well, you found a public dime."
No, the Rolexes. Hang on one second. I will say the Rolexes were both gifts. What he said, says.
They were both gifts?
Yeah, but the Versace bag, we don't know.
Who in the hell's business is if he has a Rolex and a
yeah, there is that
bag?
Okay.
No, honestly, this
I
is
get
getting
it.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Complain about a politician if he or she is a jerk, an uninformed jerk who doesn't do their homework, who's a populist clown. But now we're going to start pointing the finger at politicians because of their accessories?
Okay, and we will leave it at that. James MENNIE, the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adama.